Hi guys, this is Vineet, and in today's video we will discuss about security configuration and protocol order inside SQL Server. So before that, I would like you guys to subscribe to my channel. So there's a subscribe button below. Click on that button to subscribe to my channel. And right next to subscribe button, there is a bell icon. Click on that icon and select all notifications to get notified on all the notifications regarding all my future videos. So I think we can begin now. So we will talk about security configuration and protocol order. You may go through this disclaimer, so read through it. Read through it carefully. So I'm assuming you will perform all these exercises on the test environment and not on the production environment. Just glance through it carefully before attempting any action provided in this video. So let's begin. Let's go to my notes. So here we are talking about security configuration and protocol order. So give me just a minute. I will begin shortly. So if we talk by default, client machines do not use the secure socket layers or SSL security, or it does not attempt to validate the server certificate. So by default, security is not present on the client connections to the SQL server. So you need to implement that security. And also it's talking about the protocol encryption, which can be enforced in the same way server certification validation can be imposed. So these security items, both the server certification validation and the protocol encryption, is not enabled by default. So let me take you through one of the demos, how you can configure the security for the native client. So give me a sec, let me open up SQL Server. Let me launch it. Close Chrome. So meanwhile the SQL Server is starting, I'm pausing this video, I will come back in a minute. So seems like SQL Server is starting up. I just saw the splash screen after launching the Management Studio. So let me see if it's already launched. No. Just give it a couple of moments. So guys, SQL Server is launched. Let me connect to it. I will show you how you can configure the security for the native clients. So basically I have launched SQL Server Management Studio, but we need to go to the SQL Server Configuration Manager. So you can type that item here. So just type SQL Server Configuration Manager. So here's that item, SQL Server 2019 Configuration Manager. Click yes on any of the prompts. So it will open up SQL Server Configuration Manager, where we will configure the security items. So this is the SQL Server Configuration Manager. So it is launched right now. After starting SQL Server Configuration Manager, you need to expand the SQL Server Network Configuration section, which is already expanded here. And we also need to expand this other section, SQL Server Native Client 11.0 configuration. So it's not inside the network configuration, but yeah, it's inside it's a separate section, SQL Server Native Client 11.0 configuration. So we need to right click on the SQL native client configuration and select properties on that. So now in order to use the encryption for the protocol, you need to select force protocol encryption to yes. And when you set it to yes, it will force clients to use the SSL or SSL security on the network channel. If it is set to no, client will use the unencrypted connections. So if it is set to yes, the connection will be encrypted. So anything sent over that connection will be encrypted. Second option is to trust the server certificate. Set this option to yes to force clients to validate server certificate. Otherwise, if it is set to no, the clients will skip the validation of the server certificate. So yeah, we have just talked about two security options which can be accessed through right-clicking on the SQL native client configuration, going to properties. These are the two options: force protocol encryption and trust server certificates. Now let's go back to notes and see what's next. So we are done with this demo, and now we are talking about how you can configure the native client protocol order. So shared memory is a protocol which is always preferred for local connection pool. Local connection pool means the machines which are on your local area network. And if the shared memory protocol is enabled, then it is used before any other enabled protocols. In case it is enabled, it is used first. So now we will take you through a demo of how you can change this native client protocol order. And shared memory protocol is used for local client connections only. So let's take you through this demo, native client protocol order. So again, we need to go to the client configuration, the configuration manager. So we are in this section, native client configuration. Under that, you will see client protocols. So what you need to do, you need to right click on any of the protocols listed on the right and select order. So here we see a sequencing number against the order. So TCP/IP will be used, the third sequences of the named pipes protocol. So let's see. Give me a second, guys. Alright, so we have seen that these protocols are in sequence where shared memory protocol is used first. And in order to change the sequence, you need to right click on it and click on the order option. So right now it is showing me enabled protocols. So if the shared memory protocol is enabled, it is always used first. So protocol order can be changed between TCP/IP and named pipes. Here the order can be changed for these protocols. So if you set apply, now TCP/IP is set to third and named pipe will be twice second. Let me reverse that order. Alright, so shared memory protocol order cannot be changed, but yeah, the order of further protocols can be changed. So we have just seen how you can change the protocol order. So we need to click the name of the protocol, use the up down arrow button to set the right order, and we can enable and disable the shared memory protocol. Similarly, these protocols can also be disabled by taking them to the left hand side section. So for disabled protocols, here the right hand side section is showing the enabled protocols, and if we want to enable any disabled protocols, we need to select the protocols on the left box and move it to the right box. So then that protocol will get enabled. So alright, we are fine. We are done. We can also enable or disable the share memory protocol from here. And after configuring the protocol order, we can click on OK button to set the same. Here right now I'm canceling it out, so we are done with this demo. Let's see what's next. Let's see what's coming next. So the next thing is how you can configure the shared memory native client configuration. Prior to that, we have seen how you can set the protocol order. So we will take you through this demo, how you can configure the shared memory native client configuration. And here it is talking about, so that is the next option. So yeah, so it was saying that shared memory protocol is used for local client connections only. And let's see how you can configure the shared memory native client configuration. So let's go to the configuration manager. So how you can enable or disable the shared memory protocol, this one. You can right click on it and select disabled, enabled from here. So it's under the client protocols, under the SQL native client 11 configuration. You can enable and disable it from here. Otherwise you can go to properties and there's a drop down. From here you can enable or disable this protocol. After selecting the appropriate setting, you can click on apply button and click OK after that. So right now I'm leaving it to enabled. So yeah, we are done with this demo. Let's quickly go to our notes. So next we are talking about named pipes protocol, which is used for connections by applications written in the earlier version of Windows. So what uses the named pipe protocols? The applications which was written in the earlier version of Windows. And we will not talk about how you can configure the named pipe native client configuration. So let me take you to configuration manager. Let me show you how named pipes configuration. Give me a sec, guys. Alright, so we're talking about how you can configure the properties from named pipes. So right click on the named pipes and select properties. You can now do the following. You can enable this or disable this protocol from here. So if we select no, it prevents the protocol from being used. If you select yes, this protocol gets used. And we can set the default pipe over here. Right now the pipe is set to SQL query. You can change it as well. So this is the default pipe for named pipes. And we have any other configuration, we can mark it here. Alright, let's leave it here. We are not using any applications which are written in the previous version of Windows. So I'm not going into much details over here, but yeah, pipes can be configured here, and we have some earlier videos where it tells you about how you can configure the pipes. What is the naming convention for the pipes? You can go through those videos. Now let's talk about how you can configure the native TCP/IP client configuration. So let's talk about TCP/IP protocol. It's a preferred protocol for local and remote connections to SQL Server. If the default instance has been configured to listen on a different port, so default instance is default instance, and by default it listens to port 1433. And but if we configure it to listen on a different port, then we must change that client TCP/IP configuration to that port number so that connection can be made. For named instance, client attempt to obtain the port numbers from the SQL Server browser service. So SQL Server browser service should be turned on for the clients on the server. This service should be turned on for any of the clients to obtain the port numbers for the servers to which it is connecting. If this server is not running, TCP/IP port number must be provided in the client configuration or as a part of connection string. So yeah, if this service is turned on, it helps in client locating the service or the port number. But if it is turned off, then yeah, you need to explicitly specify the port number in the connection string or in the client configuration. So let's see how you can configure the TCP/IP client configuration. For that, you need to again go to SQL Server Client 11.0 configuration. Inside the SQL Server Configuration Manager, right click on TCP/IP, select Properties. So here we can set the default port, so which is right now set to 1433, and we can set it to a different value. And other parameters are whether we can enable or disable these protocols. So this setting also, there's a setting keep alive which also gives you option to keep alive the client connections. Basically, it specifies how the client tries to maintain idle TCP/IP connections. So two parameters are used here. First is keep alive and keep alive interval. These two parameters are used in conjunction. So let's talk about keep alive, which basically controls when a client first tries to verify that an idle connection is still valid and attempts to maintain the connection. By default, so this is a default setting, the client checks a connection after it has been idle for 30,000 milliseconds. This setting is in milliseconds, which is 30 seconds equivalent to. So mostly we configure the value between 30 and 60. So after this interval, client attempts to verify whether connection is not valid and still valid, not idle and still valid. And it depends upon how the busy server is and the importance of client connectivity. We want to verify and maintain idle connections more frequently, which can ensure that idle connections are not terminated. For an instance, we can use a smaller value, maybe 15 or 20 seconds, to ensure that idle connections are validated more often. This is basically to check the validity of the idle connection, whether the idle connection is still valid or whether it's terminated. Next option is the keep alive interval, which is set to 1000 right now. So it controls the frequency client rechecks an idle connection. So by default, client retransmits the keep alive request every 1000 milliseconds or after every 1 second. So basically, client sends the keep alive packets to a server after this many number of milliseconds, or it's equivalent to 1 second. If many clients are connected to a busy server, you might want to lengthen the keep alive interval to decrease the number of keep alive retransmissions. So yeah, if the channel is busy or the server is busy, then we need to increase these numbers because multiple systems are sending the keep alive packets to server. Alright, so after configuring these options, we can click on OK. So these options get configured. Now let's go back to notes. Here we will go to the next section, which is on the services configuration. So SQL Server install the following services on the server. So let me take you to configuration manager. It shows the services well under the SQL Server services section. So these are the list of services. We have two instances installed. One is the default instance MS SQL Server and another is instance one. So let's see what all those services are. So first service, the distributed transactions coordinator. This service you will not find in that configuration manager. So we don't see distributed services or distributed transactions coordinator service over here. So basically the role of this service is to coordinate distributed transaction between two or more database server. This server can be configured through service utility of Windows. So we need to open up the service utility. You can type services.msc to open that. Here you will find the distributed transactions coordinator. Right now this service is running, and the role of this service is to coordinate the transaction between two database servers. The next service is SQL full text filter daemon launcher. Let's try to locate this service, whether it's in the configuration manager. So there's no service with this name over here. Let me see whether such service exists in the. So there's no service like daemon launcher over here. I don't see that. So, but let me tell you what's the role of that service if it's installed. It performs a document filtering and word breaking for SQL Server full text search. Right now we don't have this service installed on our system. Next service is SQL Server primary database service. So this is a primary database service, so it's with the name SQL Server. So we can go to the configuration to see. This is the service. This is for instance one. Another is for default instance. So this is the service for the database engine. Let's go back to notes. Next service is SQL Server agent, and this service is used for scheduling and alerting. It's inside the SQL Server configuration manager for each of the instances. Next is analysis services, which is used for OLAP, analytical processing, or in data mining. Next is the browser service. We just talked about that. It helps in the providing the connection details information to clients. Next service is integration services, and it provides the enterprise-wise data transformation integration solutions like ETL solutions or extracting and transforming data. Next is the reporting services, which is used to manage the reporting services and deliver the reports to the customers. Next service is VSS Writer, SQL Server VSS Writer, which provides the necessary interface for backing up and restoring SQL Server by using the volume shadow copy. And the configuration can be used to manage the startup state of SQL Server services. So if we go to configuration manager, we can set the startup state over here as well. If we go to properties and so let's go to service tab. So here we can also set the startup type, whether it should be automatic on Windows startup or manual, or it's totally disabled. We can configure it here. And so yeah, startup type can be maintained through SQL Server configuration services. So ideally we should configure the startup type using the configuration manager, because it is beneficial in the sense that it provides file system and registry permission to the service account used for these services. These permissions are not granting while modifying the entries using the services applet. So what we would suggest to modify the SQL Server services through here instead of using the services app, because it configuring services through here adds permission to the services account, the registry permissions and the other associated permissions. Now let me take you through the demo how you can configure the SQL Server services. So let me quickly let's go inside. So here we will talk about how you can configure the SQL services, how to set the start service and start mode, and how to set up the service account. So once you set SQL Server, so this is the default instance. Go to properties. So the logon tab lets you specify to use a specific service account for this SQL Server service. So right now we are using anti-service MS SQL Server account, and it has a password and the service status is running. We can stop the services, pause the service, and restart the service from here. Under the service section, we can specify the startup type of the service. So yeah, these are the main items. So startup mode we have talked about. So you need to go inside the service properties. So first of all, you need to select the name of the service and go to in the context menu. You can start, stop, pause, resume, and restart service from here. Same thing you can do from properties as well, or you can double click the services to view its properties as well. So for example, let's talk about SQL Server browser service which is running, and mode can be set from automatic to disabled, etc. from here, and manual can also be set. And after you set the startup type, you can click on OK. And we have also talked about how you can specify the service account over here. So right now the browser service is running under as a local service and not as a network service. So it's running under a local service account, which is a built-in system account. And this account can be changed from here, or otherwise we can specify this service to run under a specific domain account as well. So yeah, what we have just discussed is how you can configure SQL Server services. You can change the service state and startup mode, and you can specify the service account for any service. Alright, I think we are done for this video. In our next video series, we will talk about file streaming, which specify how we can stream the complex data structure like binary large data objects. So stay in touch, stay in tune with us, subscribe to my channel, and click on the bell icon to get any updates regarding my future videos. And please share this video with your friends as well if you really like it, and hit on the like button if you really like this video. Thank you once again, and you have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.